Can you legally get married to an AI companion and share your assets with them? Sounds like a crazy idea. But people are trying to work towards that future. And if they succeed in that future, then it will always have been normal. That's something for you to be thinking about. You have to be very careful because everybody is clear consumers of technology, but may not be natural champions or intuitively clued in to the rate of technology or your personal reaction to how technology changes.
Welcome to Brave. Learn from Southeast Asia's best tech leaders. Build the future, learn from our past, and stay human in between. No BS on success. I'm Jeremy Au, venture capitalist, serial founder, Harvard MBA, science fiction nerd, and dad of 2 daughters. Every week, we debate startup news, interview changemakers, answer listener questions, and share personal insights. Join our movement of over 40,000 members and get transcripts, resources, and community at www.bravesea.com. Stay well and stay brave.
If you were born 100,000 years ago, you would be looking for berries right now. You would definitely not be educated or be listening to this on YouTube. Only in the past 100 years have we seen this tremendous uptake. Every year we expect a new iPhone. Every 5 years we expect a new technology wave. Every generation we expect a generational uplift of GDP per capita, of energy usage that we have, right? And so, today we can think about not only going to the moon, we can think about going to Mars. When it comes to our children's generation, they'll probably think about going to another solar system. Because if you go back one generation ago, we were thinking about the Cold War and the world ending. And you go back one generation before that, we were in World War II and the world is ending. And you go back one generation before that, it was World War I and the world was ending, right? So just think about it, every generational change is huge, and there's been a huge, tremendous increase all the way from, having a sampan rowing your boat by hand, to having a ship with wind, to clippers across the world, to the telegraph, to steamboats, to cruise ships, right? To naval destroyers, to aircraft carriers, to Apollo mission, now to reusable rockets, right? And global internet. So all this has actually only happened in the past 100 years. If you think about that tremendous amount of innovation in the past 100 years, you look at the next 100 years, you have to apply that same level of thinking, right? That if you were in 1924, 100 years ago, could you have predicted what was going to happen in 2024? So 1924 is probably your great-great-grandparents, right? I would say. At least, I think. Yeah, because your grandparents would have been born in parents would be born in 1960s, 1980s. Your grandparents would be born in 1960s. Your great-grandparents would be born in 1940s. And then your great-great-grandparents would be born in 1920. So 1920, so they were born around that time. 1924. Could a person in 1924 look at 2024 and say, this is the future where everybody can have internet anywhere in the world at any time and get a picture of a cute cat GIF with music in the background? Mind-blowing, impossible. The concept that anybody could travel in the world for $500 on a flight, right, to go anywhere in the world would have been mind-blowing to somebody in 1924. So now we're in 2024. What's going to happen in 2124? You're going to see that. You're going to live longer. Singapore is a blue zone. Last few months ago, we laughed about the idea of AI companions and that people will fall in love and get married to AI companions. Yesterday, I was at a meeting and we're talking about how the newest batch of hottest startups in California are all AI companions. Their job is to create AI-powered waifus so that people can finally fall in love with somebody who loves them, all right? So this is technology, but then all of us laugh. You like your organic, imperfect human that you want to fall in love with in this generation right now, but you have to ask yourself, can this happen in 2124? Are more people going to become in love with digital avatars and AI companions? But if you think about that, that's actually not that far away. There's only 10 years out, 20 years out. What does 100 years of that evolution of technology look like? And then AI companions don't even hang out with you. They don't even hang out with you. They can hang out with other AI companions. My AI companion can teach this class, and this class could be represented by all your AI companions. And all of us will be somewhere else in the world doing something else, right? The rate of technology progress is very important. This is a historical aberration. It has never existed before. The concept that life can change tremendously is key. A lot of us underestimate how much life has changed compared to humanity, but most people are also underestimating how much technology can change over the course of 100 years. We talked about how the world and Southeast Asia, that there's a tremendous gap and difference in the GDP per capita and the workflows and the productivity of countries. And so country and politics does matter. And we're talking about how, as a result, these startups that you see today are risky, but is a known amount of risk. And when we did this, we talked about how there's about a 1 in 40 chance for a company that has received seed stage funding to become a unicorn. And most people overestimate how hard it is. A lot of people were surprised that it's actually a 1 in 40 chance, which is not bad. Obviously, it's a lot of work, frustration, blood, sweat, and tears, but it is something that you can choose to play. And then we talked about how Southeast Asia, from Asia Partners' perspective, is part of a golden age. There are many companies to be built in the next 10, 20, 50 years. There's going to be more unicorns in Southeast Asia, not less, in the next 50 years, which is the course of your working life career. As we talked about, Singaporean and local universities like National University of Singapore are the most represented of unicorn founders in Southeast Asia. So one of you could be a unicorn founder in a matter of time. And so what we have to share is we talk about how Machiavelli shared that from our perspective, it ought to be remembered that there is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. Because the innovator has for enemies all those who have done well under the old conditions, and lukewarm defenders those who may do well under the new. This coolness arises partly from fear of the opponents, and partly from the incredulity of men who do not readily believe in new things until they have had a long experience of them. So what this means is that all of us right now are used to the idea of having laptops, because we've always had a laptop. But the idea of having an AI companion sounds weird to us, because it's a new thing that doesn't exist. Can you legally get married to an AI companion and share your assets with them? Sounds like a crazy idea. But people are trying to work towards that future. And if they succeed in that future, then it will always have been normal. That's something for you to be thinking about. You have to be very careful, because everybody is clear consumers of technology, but may not be natural champions or intuitively clued in to the rate of technology or your personal reaction to how technology changes. And so we talked about how, as a result, these startups are really David versus Goliath. Their job is to go for kill shots and create new technologies that will replace traditional approaches. We already saw that thanks to the power of ChatGPT, people can no longer need to think during Q&A sessions and can narrate a set of answers. That was not possible. He would have struggled under the weight of the class, unable to answer the question, and he figured it out himself. But today, he was able to narrate because of technology. David created something that changed global behavior immediately, right? Imagine that piece where these Davids are creating technologies that can change hundreds of years of societal behavior and transform how you and I operate as people. And so these Davids, they are small, but they are not weak, because they play to their strengths, and they work on the early adopters, and they work on these asymmetrical technologies that work. And so we talk about how every startup must go through the jungle, the dirt road, and the highway. They need to figure out what to build, where to go, how to think about things. Then they start to gather those early supporters, and then they start pushing a lot of volume and throughput through what they need to do. So these startups are always focused on the number one problem that people have. They figure out when those problems happen, and then they try to create a 10x solution that is far superior to what is the alternative. Being able to identify the organal approach to attack this problem is super key, because if you can create a 10x better, a 10x faster, or a 10x cheaper product, then you're really, really going for the kill shot. Because if you are better on any of these dimensions, you will be able to win. We talked about the things that power the unfair advantages: the first mover effect, network effects, economies of scale, having the IP and patents, the regulatory support, as well as having a great team. Those are the things that power the unfair advantage. And we talked about how these companies can be valued based on their customer lifetime value, how long these customers are valuable to us over the lifetime of the customer. Not the immediate price, but a lifetime of transactions they'll do with us if we'll do a good job. And also we talked about making sure that we have a full understanding of the total expenditure to acquire them for the life of this transaction. VCs are looking for founders that will eventually build unicorns in the next 10 years. That's important, because the people that you meet are tremendous. Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, etc. All these are famous people, but they used to be undergraduate students, they used to be young, they used to be inexperienced, and they used to be naive, right? And so they were able to get stronger over time. The job of a VC is that we are talent scouts looking for people who will be able to grow and build these companies over time. Great founders who know this will always try to prioritize and say, I want to build a great business with a great fundamental understanding of product market fit. I want to build trust so that they feel comfortable providing money to me. They work on a pitch deck that's able to address all those points. The difference between private equity and venture capital is that venture capital is really focused on high-risk bets that will generate 20 to 100x returns, and they leave that control for the founders because they say that the founder knows best, which is different from private equity, which tends to take majority control and look for medium-sized risk, but also medium-sized returns. As a result, these VCs are looking for power law bets, looking for companies that will generate a 10x team, 10x product, 10x economics, and that will unlock a tremendous amount of value. So they are not school coaches, they are not university lecturers, they're not doing this for the goodness of their heart, they are Olympic level coaches. They are Manchester United football managers. They want the people who are the best to assemble the best possible portfolio team that they think can crack that future. And so as a result, if they're able to find and identify these people, and if they're able to come in early at a cheap price, they're able to generate humongous returns of 50x, 100x returns that they call home runs. And as a result, every VC at every stage is making a decision, is this going to be a home run or not? At the earliest stages, when you're a single solo founder that has an idea, last night somebody pitched me an idea. He was like, Jeremy, I only have an idea. My idea is to build this for regulatory affairs. And he doesn't have anything. He just has an idea. He told it to me. And I said, maybe you should zoom out your idea because I see the problem. He's getting that perspective that we have here. He is by himself in a jungle trying to figure out what the product market fit is. But as all these VCs, all these incubators, all these accelerators, they are collaborating as a syndicate over the course of a lifetime to build and nurture home runs, but also to prune and let go of companies that would not become home runs. And so they compete within bands of time, but they collaborate across stages. And as a result, it has created these clusters or known stages from pre-seed to seed to Series A, Series B, Series C, with relatively fuzzy boundaries. And so what we see is that in the course of a startup like Instacart, that from the seed days when they were a very small team, very basic product market fit, all the way to the IPO, there were multiple VCs on a cap table that led multiple stages. Now, obviously, Instacart is a success today because it's a billion-dollar company, but of course, supporting those companies can create different stages, and the individual stages of these may not be economically profitable from a VC perspective. But the net effect is that these VCs all work together to create a positive outcome.
Thank you for listening to Brave. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. We would also appreciate you leaving a rating or review. Head over to www.bravesea.com for member content, resources, and community. Stay well and stay brave.